Hello friends, welcome back to Bookshelves. Today's vlog is a very exciting one. I have the week off of work and have decided to take this time, it was going to be a staycation anyway, to put on a little at-home writing retreat for myself. I am well behind my totally made up, self-established, light, gentle goals for the draft I am currently working on of Project Laurels, which is my Greek mythology retelling. And I thought, well, why not just take this time to really dig in and see how much writing I can knock out? It also feels like a good opportunity to take a little tour of some of Chicago's best and most interesting libraries, some of which I've been to before, some of which have been on my radar for a while, and maybe enjoy a couple new cafes on that library tour. So that's what's coming up this week. I have a bit of a schedule laid out. There's still some flexibility in it, but the basics are that I'm aiming to get in 2 to 3 writing sessions every day, Monday through Friday, potentially extending into Saturday because it's the long weekend for Labor Day and I'll have some bonus time at the end. For Tuesday through Friday, I'm hoping to stop by a library and a cafe each day as a part of those writing sessions. And we also happen to be dog sitting for a friend by midweek, so there might also be a furry friend in your future. But I don't necessarily have a hard writing goal. I think I'm pretty out of routine with writing at this point. We were doing a lot of house projects in late July, early August, and so I'm hesitant to put like a word goal on the list, but I think in my dream world, I would wrap a chapter each day, which with 2 to 3 writing sessions and decently outlined chapters as it is, that shouldn't be impossible. So we'll go ahead and throw that out there. The goal is a chapter a day for the next 5 days. And I'm coming to you from Monday. So today's kind of the warm-up day, the prep day. I got in a good writing session this morning and then spent a bit of the afternoon handling all of my meal prep for the week, kind of getting situated. And I'm about to hop into my next writing session for the day. Today's cafe is a spot in Ravenswood. It's a very cute like coffee bar and gelato bar. They seem to do more stuff all of the time, but they're called Cafe Libra, and we'll be headed there later today. So I will check in at the end of each day, maybe give you a little voiceover of the clips that I film while we're out and about, and fingers and toes crossed that a lot comes out of this writing retreat. All right, I'll see you later on. So on this first day of the retreat, like I mentioned, my focus was really just on getting started and getting organized. So during my writing sessions, I started by like clearing a bunch of old notes. Like there were sort of 3 layers of previous outline in the chapter doc that I'd been working in. So I cleared all of that out and I re-outlined based on the current vision for the chapter. And then started actually drafting, which felt so good because this was a chapter I had been stuck on for so long and had imagined so iteratively in my head that it was just great to finally knock it out and get started on, real movement on this latest piece. After the 2 writing sessions for the day, we did head over to Cafe Libra. And that is a very cute spot in Ravenswood. I've had gelato here, I've had ice cream here, I've had coffee here, and none of them have like knocked my socks off. They do have pastries and hot food though, and I have a feeling that those are actually better. So don't take my word for it, try it for yourself, and hopefully maybe some of the other items on their menu are better. But it was still really nice to kind of have this little treat at the end of the first day, just get in the right headspace for having this laid back week of writing and rest and just sort of recharging before me. By the end of the day, I had written just a tiny bit. Like I said, I started with deleting a lot of content, but I wrapped the day around 391 words. We also ended the day with like a very easy, lazy meal. We had some frozen bao buns that I was able to steam up and made a nice little like Chinese cucumber salad, which is one of our go-to meals. Refreshing, wholesome, easy peasy.
So that was the day.
Okay, happy Tuesday. We are off to University of Chicago's library system today. We're gonna stop by a very cute cafe that's like in one of their beautiful Gothic buildings and stop into two of the most iconic libraries. We have to get our IDs first, so we are headed down there for the day. We've got a picnic packed we can have out on the quad at some point, and I'm excited to see what we find.
So, getting started on this day, I was honestly a little nervous because, of course, I'm not a University of Chicago student and I didn't want to be some weird rando stranger who was traipsing around this college campus. But my research had told me we should be just fine to come in and get a visitor's pass for the library. That's what we did. We started at the Regenstein Library. There was a little robot machine that you entered your information into, and it printed out a beautiful pass for you. Very easy. You didn't even have to talk to a person. After that, we headed to the Student Center, which is where that cool Gothic cafe is supposed to be. It's called Hallowed Grounds, but I believe it's student run, so it was actually closed when we were here. So instead, we headed over to Pret, grabbed a coffee, and then had our coffees in the quad at this beautiful botany pond. From there, we headed over to the Mansueto Library, which is a really iconic and interesting space. It's all glass, it's a total quiet zone, and I have wanted to go here for so long. So, really, being in this space to work was such a treat. There's actually a ton of really interesting science and tech that goes into this building. Underneath the space that we were in is actually like a massive archive of documents, and there's a big like robotic system to retrieve books that are requested by researchers. So it's really interesting. If you're ever curious about it, there's some really interesting media about it available. But I just felt like I was in some kind of greenhouse. You know, you were sitting in the sunshine in this totally peaceful, quiet zone. I was so focused and got so much work done. Afterwards, we headed to a car. We grabbed our picnic lunch and we set up to eat in one of the many beautiful outdoor spaces available to us. And we followed lunch with a quick little walk through campus to see some more of the beautiful Gothic architecture. Our second destination for the day was the Harper Memorial Library. Here again, I was a little nervous because it's actually not a circulating library, it's not a part of their library system. And because of that, I was nervous that our guest pass wouldn't get us in, which was totally unnecessary because it's actually just like a multi-purpose building now and it's totally open to the public. We just waltzed right in. This beautiful reading room is on the third floor. It's the part of the University of Chicago that feels most like Hogwarts. Working in the space was incredible, honestly, such a joy. And because we happened to be here about a week before the fall classes started, we were able to have this space like mostly to ourselves. People passed through, a couple other folks were working, but it was really quiet and felt really private too, which was incredible. After the second writing session, we had to kind of scurry home because we agreed to go to an inversions yoga class with a friend, kind of on a whim, which was super fun. It absolutely wrecked my elbows, though. I still have little scabs that are healing, which I was very surprised by. And after that, we had to kind of settle in because our new furry friend had arrived for the week and we wanted to make sure she was comfortable and all set up for, staying with us and getting her comfortable takes a little bit. So that was our day and it was a super productive day overall. In the time across those sort of three writing sessions I had for the day, I wrote 1140 words, which included finishing the chapter I started the day before and starting a new one. So at this point, I was almost halfway through the arc that I was really hoping to finish. And it felt really good to have this much progress early in the week.
Okay, day 3 of our staycation writing retreat right here in Chicago. We're getting a pretty late start today, but that is because our tiny furry house guest had a very bad night of sleep. She was up at 1:30. She was up at 3:30, and that of course meant that we were up too. So had a little sleep in this morning, and we are getting ready to head out for the day. The destinations of choice today are the Harold Washington Library, specifically the Winter Garden, which is like a giant, gorgeous sunroom on the top floor. I have been there before, but I've never really been there to like work for any extended period of time. And then we're gonna stop by a nearby French cafe. I think it's called Ventu, something like that. I'll put the name on the screen when we get there. But it looks really beautiful. These like seafoam green walls covered in flowers and mirrors and gold accents, and a lovely space with, again, a lot of sunlight for a snack and another writing session. So looking forward to today's adventure. I don't know if you can hear any of what I'm saying between the cicadas and the airplanes that are happening right now. Hopefully the audio is not truly terrible. I will see you later today.
Our journey to the Harold Washington Library was quickly interrupted because they were closed. At least the Winter Garden was closed, which was the primary destination of the day. So we had to do a little bit of a pivot and swapped our plans to go to Chinatown on Friday for Wednesday, which was no problem at all. Honestly, Chinatown is like a 10-minute train ride from downtown, and all of the details we needed were already mapped out. So first we stopped at Kung Fu Tea for a little bit of caffeine to get us through the work session, and then we headed over to the Chicago Public Library Chinatown branch, which is another beautiful example of architecture. It was all glass. It was really wonderfully like rounded, and inside the art was really beautiful. There were all of these lovely origami cranes hanging from the ceiling, lots of vibrant colors, lots of like really cool modern art. And of course, a really great selection of books too. They have a really large manga collection at the library, which I was eager to take a peek at as my interest in manga grows. But once we were here, we had a good long writing session. I think we stayed for maybe 90 minutes. During that time, I knocked out about 432 words. It was drafting a large chunk of what remained in chapter 6 that I had started the day before. And after our writing session, we decided to grab a little late dumpling lunch, which was a very exciting premise. We decided to try a new spot on this particular trip instead of one of our tried and true favorites. So we headed to a place called Legend Dumpling and Bao, which was an excellent choice. They weren't particularly busy. The food came out fast and it was delicious. I was so happy to end this writing session with a bunch of soup dumplings. That's like one of my favorite things on earth. I started to feel a little under the weather at lunch, though, and we had a pup at home who was eager to be let out, I'm sure. So we decided to head home, and I'd hoped to maybe get in a tiny bit more writing once we returned, but it ended up being just kind of a quiet night in. So really, the only writing session we had was that one stop at the library.
Okay, home from another big outing. As you will have seen, Winter Garden closed. Had to make emergency counter programming decisions. Because of the late start and the change in plans, I only got one writing session in while we were out and about today. I'd like to get another session in tonight now that we're home and it's just us and the pup. But I'm not feeling great this evening. I've got like a lot of sinus pressure going on. I'm kind of dizzy. I don't know what's going on there. So because of that, I'm trying to just like take it easy, and like part of this being a staycation means that it's as much about rest as it is about productivity with my writing. So gonna just kind of cozy in for the evening and may or may not get another writing session in today. But I'm very excited for tomorrow. We're gonna stop by the Chicago History Museum, which is free to residents this Thursday. And we're also going to work a little bit at the Poetry Foundation, which I have been dying to go to for forever. It's so beautiful. It's another like all glass building, and it looks incredibly zen in there. I'm very excited to see it for myself. Something I have been noticing is that kind of having writing be the primary focus of the day, and having taken a long time off of writing routinely, but thinking a lot about the story, I've just felt like I have really clear direction every time I sit down to write, which has been so fun because I think part of what was kind of leaving me feeling a bit stuck recently was that there were just a lot of details about the setting and about kind of finding the right tone for this part of the story, had really sort of gotten me kind of spinning my wheels and not feeling like I was making any progress. But having spent a lot of time thinking about it, I now feel like I've got a really clear sense of where we're going. And that makes me feel very hopeful that even if I don't get much more writing in today, over the course of the week, I will have made a lot of progress. So I'm having a blast. And I'll also say I definitely am noticing that I focus better outside of the house. Oh, bummer, I know. But, at home, there are so many things that I can be distracted by, right? There are household responsibilities. There's making another cup of tea. There's just so many little things I could step away to do and sort of excuse away that they would only take 5 minutes. But I have just loved being at these libraries and knowing that, like, I have one job here. The job is to write, like, and everybody else around me is focused on something too. So I'm going to have a cozy evening, and I will see you all tomorrow.
So Thursday rolled around and we had our free resident visit to the Chicago History Museum. I've actually never been before. My husband Jake has, and I really enjoyed getting to see it for myself after all these years. The campus it's on is also very beautiful. They've got lovely fountains and greenery and some like buildings that are open air in their sort of lawn, all of which are lovely. But inside, there was sort of the standing usual exhibits. They've always got these really cool dioramas that I really enjoyed looking at of the city throughout time. And then there were two traveling exhibits I was really excited about. The first was about protest art, kind of looking at like the 60s, 70s, and 80s, up through modern time even, and just looking at like how different movements have designed images to kind of convey their message in a really powerful way. It was beautiful and interesting. But really, I would say the star of the show, the most impactful thing we saw was the Emmett Till exhibit. We happened to be here on the exact 70th anniversary of the lynching of Emmett Till. And the exhibit was kind of focused on the trial that happened for the men who killed him, in which they got off scot-free. It was a really powerful, incredibly recent example of the sort of effort in the South to maintain white supremacy, even in the face of such like egregious violence. It was really moving, really emotional. And afterwards, we just kind of took a beat outside. We had a walk, we grabbed some lunch, and then made our way over to the Poetry Foundation. The Poetry Foundation is a really interesting spot. So it's the like actual office building of the Poetry Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization. But they have this beautiful library and courtyard that are open to the public. It's not a circulating library, so you don't need like a library card because you can't actually take the books with you, but their beautiful poetry collection is available to the public. And you can sit inside or outside in their courtyard. It's a pretty limited amount of seating, to be honest. There's sort of like one long table inside with chairs and a couple small like couch setups. But there were lots of tables outside and it was really beautiful weather. So we kind of set up out there for a little bit. It's funny because you're like on the sidewalk, but there's these sort of a little blockade that's kind of up that creates this sense of privacy. And the trees certainly add to the like more natural feel of the space. But I still wasn't feeling great this afternoon. I was really tired and just kind of in a weird headspace. So we spent a bit of time here. I did a little bit of editing of the work that I'd done earlier in the week. But we left after probably 30 minutes, and I didn't actually get any new words on the page, at least no new words that I kept. So went home, made a coffee, had a nap, and then just had a very kind of low key evening, kind of resting, recharging, focusing on feeling better. And the next day was kind of the reset day. So we decided to set up at home, had a nice slow morning, walked the pup, made beverages, and, settled in for a day of work at a slower pace with no commute, which I tried to give myself some grace for. I was honestly pretty bummed that Thursday didn't go better in terms of writing output, but also trying really hard to recognize that, there was more than one goal for the week, and that I was grateful to also have this chance to rest and refuel as well as get writing done. So we took it a little bit more easy on Friday, and honestly, that worked out great.
Hello, good morning, happy Friday. We have a change of plans for the day. Originally, today was going to be our Chinatown adventure, and of course, we shifted that when the Harold Washington Library's Winter Garden was closed on Wednesday. So we had the option to, kind of reconfigure. I could have called them and seen if it was open today. There's a really cool kind of historic library in Bronzeville I was interested in stopping by. But honestly, I've been pretty tuckered the last couple days. You probably heard that I ended up not writing anything yesterday. We had a brief rest at the Poetry Foundation, but really all I did was like read over and do some light editing of my existing work. I was just so tired. I think both undercaffeinated and also exhausted from having gotten bad sleep a couple nights prior and all that good stuff. So I think today's game plan is to just stay home and kind of, with that time that would have gone to a commute, be able to do more work right here from the comfort of my own home. So we had a really low key morning. We took our furry friend for a long walk to the park and got some rest. I got some reading in this morning as well. And I'm jumping into my first major writing session of the day right around noon here. So I've decided that, I'm going to let go of the guilt that I feel about having not written a ton in the last couple days and just try to get as much as I can out of today. Ideally, I would love to finish the chapter I started 2 days ago. And in a crazy world, if I were to suddenly acquire a bunch of energy and very fast writing, would love to actually finish this chapter and the next because I have a really clear sense of where we're going, and it would sort of close out the arc I've been working on for a while now. But I think that's a big stretch, and I don't want to, shoot myself in the foot when it comes to the expectation game. So I would say my minimum goal is 1,000 words. My medium goal is to finish the chapter, and my that would be crazy stretch goal is to finish this chapter and the next. So goals set, cozies on, caffeine in hand. I'm gonna go ahead and jump into today's writing.
This day ended up being everything I hoped it would be. I got two really long writing sessions in and wrote a total of 1,300 words, which did, in fact, allow me to finish chapter 6, which is what I had been working on since Tuesday. It felt so good to finally wrap that up and have it behind me. It concluded on a scene I had in my head now for a very long time. And it felt like such an accomplishment to get to put that on the page. So this was the second chapter I finished for the week, which gave me really good fuel going into the weekend to write a little bit more. Saturday was a day off, but Sunday I decided to head out for one more big outing. I wanted to check out this spot called Green Post, which is an Irish pub by night, and on the weekend it's also like a brunch place and a coffee bar. So I ended up getting this beautiful secluded dark wood booth all to myself. I love the aesthetic of an Irish pub. I actually used to live and work in Ireland for a little bit, and it is just such a cozy feel. And I really enjoyed setting up here for the morning. So on Sunday morning, I actually pivoted a little bit because I had a pitch that I wanted to write for a small independent press, Sarah Brand, who opened up submissions for this project called the Inklings Project. This used to be a series run by the 404 Publishing House. They recently closed and handed the series off to Sarah Brand. They are super short, kind of funky pop culture nonfiction pieces, like 20 to 25,000 words. So, short nonfiction. If nonfiction came in novellas, it would be a novella. And I have had a pitch that I've wanted to propose to them for a couple years now. And this was really the first time I felt like I was well positioned to really put myself out there. So I spent the morning at this pub drafting my submission materials. Then I headed to the library that's in Lincoln Square, which is the neighborhood that I was in. And I did a passive edits on that submission. I gave it to my partner to review and get, final feedback on before sending it in that day. But I also got in some writing for Project Laurels in this afternoon sitting at the library as well. So I wrote 662 words for Project Laurels this day, but I wrote another 700 or 800 words for the submission. So it was another big writing day, a very focused session, and I left that day feeling really, really good. So I was set up to really just wrap up that chapter on Monday, and that's kind of where the day ended.
Okay, that is the week-long writing retreat done. I had the best time. I really, 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 really enjoyed this week, and I think it served as an important reminder on several fronts. For one, I think it was a really important reminder that I am participating in a marathon. I spent a decent amount of time this week writing, not as much as I had hoped I would, but I made really significant progress. I had another writing session this morning. I'm midway through chapter 7, and I expect that I will finish it by the end of today. And that would mean that I wrote 3 chapters this week, which is crazy. I have not made that much progress since starting this process. And 3 chapters is a tiny portion of this book. And so even though that progress feels incredible, it's still a very small piece of the pie. And I think knowing that and feeling how good that progress feels, even though it is the long haul, has just been really important for my own expectation management. I did not write for a lot of July and August. We were doing a bunch of home improvement projects, and life was just kind of very sort of interrupted. And so I wasn't, managing sleep very well, which meant that the time I carve out for morning writing wasn't always available to me without trading on sleep. And I think sleep is very important. And I was feeling kind of creatively stuck. I had really been struggling with the arc that I'm currently writing, and sort of came to the realization that that's probably because I'm bored, and that I need to be really thinking more closely about how to make this part of the book more fun and engaging and interesting. And so that means that, the last 2 months I did not make a lot of progress. I was feeling pretty dejected about it, but what I was doing was thinking about the story a lot. And so as I sat down this week to write, I was able to knock out a lot, I think because I had done all of that thinking. And I was just very affirmed by, being reminded of how much I loved actually doing the writing of this project. So good expectation reminder that this is truly something that's going to take a year at least for a first draft. And then I will need to edit it, and then I will rewrite it. And this is a long haul iterative process, and that's okay. And there will be moments where I'm removed from the story for long periods of time and then come back to it. And that just means I'll have more steam. That's okay too. But yeah, definitely taking away recognition of how valuable thinking about the story is as a part of the creation process, that it's not just word count that counts in writing a book, and a reminder of how good it feels to really be plugged in on this story, and a reminder that I need to really set reasonable expectations for myself because I am engaged in a very, very big project. I also learned, I think, that I really love working outside of the home. I've certainly been happy with my morning writing routine. I think that's something I want to continue to build and to practice. But I have found that like going to the library, sitting in a cafe, there's nothing else in front of me. Like that is the sole purpose of the time. And it's more distraction free, it feels more intentional, and I was able to really focus in for longer stretches of time than I do at home. So I think I might take away from this that little bit of encouragement to head out somewhere. It doesn't have to cost any money, right? Like the local library is free, as a way of saying, I'm writing right now, you know, like really making that active choice to unplug from everything else and to focus on the project. And gosh, I also just loved remembering how much I love life in the city and how beautiful Chicago is. Like there's so many incredible places where you can go and set up and work for free. And I hope that's a big takeaway for all of you too, right? Like everybody's writing process is different. If the rest of what I said doesn't apply to you, no big deal. But I hope that you watch this video and think, oh my God, the local library is incredible. Like, there are beautiful public spaces all around us. There's something we should cherish, and there's something we should use. So if you're looking to mix it up, if you think you would share the benefits that I did of like being outside of the house and focusing in on writing, then like look into what the options are near you. If you're in Chicago, I hope you check out some of the places that we went to this week. University of Chicago's campus was just like divine. It was so cool. And the fact that it's open to the public is such a treat. And so many libraries in the Chicago Public Library system are gorgeous. We didn't end up making it to the Winter Garden this time around. I hope I can take you guys there some other time. But in addition to all the great spots you saw, like check out the Harold Washington Library's Winter Garden. It's incredible. So yeah, you know, get out there, enjoy your public resources, and I hope that this was a fun little peek behind the curtain of some of the great spots we have here in the city. What else? What else to say to conclude, to wrap up? I actually don't know what my final word count will be for this retreat week and a day. I'll finish writing this evening and I'll pop the final word count on the screen for the week. I think it's going to come in at 3 chapters. That means that I'm 2/3 of the way through part 1. It's a 4-part book, and I just feel great about this progress. I feel really rejuvenated, renewed. I feel really good about this retreat having affirmed the fact that I can do this. You know, sometimes when there's a lot going on in life and focus feels really fractured, it can be really hard to take yourself seriously and to trust that you are up for the task of working on a project like this. And having not worked on it for a while, I was feeling pretty dejected about it. But this week reminded me like I absolutely can do this. I love doing it, and it feels really good to lock in and get going. So I'm gonna try to hold on to that feeling for as long as I can as a sort of takeaway from all of this. So if you live in Chicago, or if you are visiting and you go to any of these places, please let me know down below. I'd love to know like your reviews. I'd also love to know if you're a local, like what are your other favorite spots? I've got a list, some of which we hit, some of which we didn't, but I would love to know like other people's writing location recommendations down in the comments below. I'm sure you heard lots of details about each individual day in the voiceover. I hope you had a good time following along, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.